This video illustrates the modeling phase of the design process. At this point, the layout has been approved, and we're just looking at what we saw at the end of the last video, which is basically just the first floor plan and the second floor plan. These are just the guide layers that are turned on in these viewports with a few dimensions, a couple of room names, and the drawing border. At this next phase, though, we're going to start to add just a few walls and roofs and floors just to give a basic exterior model to the client so that they can see what it's beginning to look like with some 3D geometry. So to do that, I would go to the saved view of working one to work on the first floor. Now, I've already put the floors and the walls in here, but not going to place any doors, no windows, just doing the actual most basic shape. So I've taken my wall tool and I've selected a 2x4 with brick, and I've traced on the correct layer, the first floor plan layer. I've traced my guides and gone around the whole exterior, and I've made sure that those are all in the proper class. Let me just click on one of those walls, and they are in the wall exterior class, the wall exterior brick class. Some of the other ones are for siding and for stone and for stucco. Concrete would be for the foundation walls, etc. So if I'm working on a existing structure and putting an addition on it, there's a wall style for existing. So just want to make sure that everything's in its proper class. After I've done all of the exterior walls, I'll be putting in the floors. I would just use my 2D polygon tool and just trace the outside of framing around the entire house, with the exception of not going into the garage, just coming along the exterior portion of this division wall between the house and the garage, and complete that 2D polygon, and then go to the floors menu, and then if you see over here, I've already made it a floor. My bottom Z is -10 and my thickness is 10 inches. That's just accounts for a 2x10, 9¼ inch floor joist with 3/4 inch plywood, so it accounts for that. Later on, right before we send the next phase to the client, we would have also wanted to get a calculation on this area, which is 16, I always round it up, so 1,635 square feet. I place that on the on this note right here. I always make sure that I edit that so that that's accurate. So let's just go back to that save view. So I do the floor of the main house, making sure that that's in the class floors new framing, and then I also make a 2D polygon shape for the garage floor. That one I make to the inside of the framing, with the exception of going outside where the door thresholds are for both the man doors and the garage doors. That polygon gets made also into a floor, and it has a bottom Z of 10 inches and a thickness of 4 inches. And the class is floors new concrete interior. That differs from, say, the front porch, whose class is the same bottom Z and the same floor thickness, but that class is floors new concrete exterior. One more slab is the back porch, or the back deck, and that goes into the class floors new decks. It has a bottom Z of -12 inches and a thickness of 10 inches. So once you've done that for both all of the exterior walls and the floor slabs for the first floor and also the second floor, also the second floor, which I've already done here, I am ready to take a look at it in a model form. And so I just go to the save sheet, model. I already have a perspective with all of the layers linked together. I would just, if the perspective wasn't quite right, I would just change that with my flyover tool and rotate it to wherever I want it. I would do a quick hidden line rendering. At this point, I've already taken the second floor walls and I've conformed them to the shape of the peaks, any peaks that I have on the front of the structure. And so now it's a hidden line rendering. I would just make a model, an animation model out of it. I'd do it a complete negative 360 degree model. I'd make it best quality. I'd make it 15 seconds. I'm going to save that movie. I'm going to save it as sample. I knew that was going to happen. I'm going to save it. Differently. Save it movie 1. And this will just take about a minute to render. So again, the idea behind doing this just very basic model without adding any more details, the client at this point has already approved the room configuration and the general layout, and we know that we're okay size-wise for the house, how many square feet that their budget can buy. But there could still be changes. They're going to need to see the outside and how that 3D geometry is looking, give them an idea of what it looks like in a 3D space. So doing a real simple model helps them through that process. The more layers of details we add, notes and lines and polygons and dimensions, and even starting to place fixtures or cabinets or plumbing or those kinds of things. If the layout changes, that just means that all of those items need to be changed and moved and shifted around. So the lighter we keep the details at the beginning while we're getting the design and the 3D look just right, the less things we have to fool with while we're doing those edits and going back and forth with the actual design phase. So now that the model's done, just gonna minimize that. Gonna open up the movie 1. What I would do at this point then, after it opens, I would just share it to my YouTube channel and then copy that link in an email with a little explanation to the client, and they'd be able to give me some feedback almost immediately. So this is what the model looks like. I see that I forgot to turn off a couple of layers there. Those are things that were left behind from when the job was actually finished. This was a finished job that I kind of stripped down for this purpose. So that's generally what the model would look like, and you may or may not produce these models for me, but that's what I do, and that's how this part of the process goes.